Servus. Hey and hello. Welcome back to season 3, not 3, 4, bloody hell, from the Assistant Professor of Football. Here it is. It's been a wonderful summer. It's been exciting, but also deeply relaxing. It's been interesting and also refreshing, and I hope yours was the same. The semester is back on its way. As you're listening to this, I'm probably still in Croatia and Bosnia for a few days, and we'll stop by in Austria briefly as well before I'm back in the US. But now Berlin. Wir fahren nach Berlin. The German capital is the subject of today's episode, well, most of today's episode. Berlin, that's what they sing when they make it to the cup final, which always is in Berlin, and that's what Damiano Benzoni, our main guest today, thought when he moved to the German capital. Damiano is an Italian journalist, an author. He's back in beautiful Como in northern Italy right now, but he has taken Berlin with him, and he's taken to Berlin's football scene so much that he wrote a whole book about it. And it's probably the first of its kind in Italian. More importantly, though, it's comprehensive, it's relatable, it has a solid historical foundation, it has an appendix, it has endnotes there and sources, and I think it should be translated into English, frankly, and take it on the authority of my 6 years of Latin, with which I leafed through Damiano's book. It's also engagingly written. You can kind of smell the terraces. So we'll visit Berlin and a whole host of German capital clubs that you may or may not have heard of so far. You're in, I think, for a lovely guided tour. First, though, a little bit of a summer harvest, thanks to some of you. Two things. First thing, remember Gabriel Kuhn from May, episode 59? The one on the workers' football leagues in 1920s Vienna, a mixture of a new sports culture and kind of a visionary politics that ended up crumbling as football became more and more capitalized. Well, Johannes, who is from Austria, like Gabriel and me, wrote me that I need to play the 1920s worker classic. Die Arbeiter von Wien is the title, The Workers of Vienna. So it's a kind of an anthem. I listened to it, remembered it from many, many years ago, and I thought it was so beautiful musically that I'll just play it to you. Because first season, after break, we can go a little longer. So think yourselves back into those days of the Amateur Workers' League, just before the Austrian Civil War that ended up banning the Social Democratic Party. I'll just tell you the first words here in English and the refrain, and then enjoy a beautiful song. And then I'll tell you what the second little summer harvest is. We are the builders of the new world. We are the planter, the seed, and the field. We are the harvesters of the new crop. We are the future, and we are the deed. So soar, you flaming red flag, above the paths we pursue. We are the faithful fighters for the future. We are the workers of Vienna. Really fits that episode very nicely. Here it is. Play a minute of an obscure 100-year-old worker song with medium quality recording right at the beginning of the episode, they said. You got to scare away the right people. We're also 4 minutes in, and there's not a single football player ever mentioned. I don't know if there will be in today's episode, but here we go. Second part of the summer harvest. The other slightly mushy tomato hanging out there. Thanks to two people, listeners, who've pointed this out, and I forget your names. Sorry. Thank you. Freiburg was not in the season roundup, and that's true. We did not hear from Patrick on a pretty remarkable SC Freiburg season. He was with us last fall. So better late than never. New season has started, but here's Patrick with a review of the old one and his look ahead at this new season. I still owe you this as well.
So to probably summarize it in one word, would be surprising. Both the male squad and the female squad finished their season on the 5th place. The male squad qualified for the Europa League again, so for the 3rd time in 4 years, and especially under the circumstances that we have our new head coach with Julia Schuster after all those years of Christian Streich, is just astonishing, really. Until the last match day, we had the chance to even qualify for the Champions League for the first time. Sadly, lost the game against Frankfurt at the last game day, but still a absolutely great season. And the female squad as well, they had their 2nd best season overall, also 5th place, but in the female or women's soccer, the 5th place doesn't qualify for Europe, sadly, but still just a great season all in all. And yeah, so you really can be happy with the results in the in the league. What also happened was we talked about it, that we don't have a president at the moment. We still don't have one, but there was a big discussion since we last talked. So inside the club, there were working groups working together to think about how to establish a new position or to manage the club's president, because right now the club has grown so big over the last years. Right now we went through the border of 75,000 members. That one person just isn't able to do all the stuff he has to do as a president, especially as a one doing it just as a volunteer, actually. So the club structures have to be redefined, and there were lots of discussions, a lot of working groups working together to think about how to reorganize the club's inner structure, to establish the member-driven base of the club. And the results came in only a few weeks ago, and to establish a new board, a so-called Vereinsbeirat, which is probably Vereinsrat, which is probably like a club's council, which is then voted by the members every 3 years, and they all have to, there are 9 to 12 people there who are like the vocals of the club members inside the club's inner structures. And yeah, that's some great stuff going on. Also, there's a huge infrastructure deal going on in our old home, the Stadion, where the club now went in and paid nearly 10 million euros to reorganize and restructurize this location to completely establish it as a new home for the women's club, or the women's department, from the small girls until the squad, the first team. And yeah, so all in all, it was a great season. A lot has happened, a lot is going on, moved forward, and you really can be happy about what happens. To think about what happens next, like I said, we qualified for Europa, for the EuroLeague for the 3rd time in 4 years. So we're totally looking forward to it, to travel through Europe again. And yeah, it will just be a great time, probably. Also, we look very positively into the future, because also the financial financial numbers were published by the DFL, by the German Football Association, and Freiburg is just, those financial numbers are crazy good. they're now a top team club, and it's just completely ridiculous. Thinking back 10, 20 years, like what a small club we were back then. And now we're an established top 10 team and also have the financial numbers to base it on. And that's just awesome. So yeah, we're totally looking good into the next future season. And right now, everything is working out great. The only thing we probably can criticize is still the lack of a museum, which we definitely want to develop, but not everyone in the clubs in our structure thinks we need one. So we will see what will happen in the future. We, as a working group, still want to get one, and we're working for it. But it will probably take some time again. But yeah, that's actually it.
And now finally Berlin. We go across Germany from Freiburg to Berlin, and we arrive slightly late because we're traveling with the German trains in Berlin and meet not just Hertha and Union, but Dynamo, Tasmania, TeBe, Babelsberg, Türkyiemspor, etc., etc. So Damiano Benzoni will give us a look at football in the German capital. I think it's overdue for this podcast. Glad this book exists. Damiano Benzoni, greetings to Como, beautiful Como in Italy. Quite a trendy spot on the football landscape right now as well, but you actually are from there and now live there again. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and good evening, everyone.
We won't spend a lot of time on Italy. We will spend most of our time on the German capital and what Damiano has written in his book about that capital. But briefly, your soccer biography will have started in Italy, I presume. Could you rope us in a little bit? How come, and what's the journey that leads to a book portrait of the German capital according to its football clubs?
Yeah, it's. I think it's something that I have in my soul because I actually have two big teams in Italy. One is Como, of course, my local team, and one came later, which is Roma, because I lived in Roma. So it's about having an identity which is shaped also from where you move, and then moving to Berlin to do football journalism came into the picture. So other stories and other parts of identity came, and the city of Berlin and its football were so rich of things for me, of stories for me, that I just couldn't avoid diving deep into it, and then it was kind of natural for me to write a book about it.
What you mentioned with identity, and so you lived there, so kind of the identity came to you eventually through clubs. That's exactly how I picked up any club that I have a special relationship to as well. At least growing some roots locally and then seeing where those lead by ways of the football landscape. Yeah. How long did you live in Berlin?
I lived there for 5 years, from 2019 to 2024.
Through the pandemic?
Yeah, through the pandemic, it was kind of harsh also because I came to Berlin without my family, looking for a flat for my family. I finally found it, and they were bound to come on the exact day when all flights were cancelled in the whole world. So it meant spending 2 months without seeing them before eventually reuniting and starting for real our life in Berlin.
Wow. Yeah, 2 months. That's tough.
Yeah. With a very small child, it's not ideal, but
right. Oh, I'm glad that's behind you.
Yeah.
And now we have the book. You're a journalist, so writing comes naturally, and the book is available right now only in Italian, as far as my Latin could carry me. I made it through, and it's organized according to games, but it also has a bibliography. It has an appendix. It has a list of sources, so it's very well worked. as you would say, it's a serious book, and I think narrates a journey to Berlin, a city that I don't know a lot about, haven't been to a lot, and really have no dog in the fight when it comes to football clubs. What was your first impression of Berlin when you arrived there, and what was your first football encounter in Berlin after you arrived there?
So it was kind of strange because I arrived in May 2019, and it was the days when Union was playing the playoffs to get promoted to the Bundesliga for the first ever time. So it was kind of electric, the fact that the city would have a top flight derby for the first time in a very, very, very long time.
Right.
For the first time in the history of United Germany. So it was kind of interesting for me. It was difficult in the first in my first months in Berlin to actually go to a game, because weekends were usually to travel back to Italy to stay with the family. My first live match was actually in the 8th division, Weissenser, against the second team of Alclinica, something like that. So something not very, not worthy, but I'm used to finding not worthy things in lower divisions. The first real impact was I downloaded this app, which is the Fußball.de app, to try to see what games I could go to. Yeah. Actually, and I was just mesmerized in seeing so many ethnic teams from the Balkans, from Turkey, from all over the world. So it was like, hey, I want to see all these. I actually want to see what this is about. So that's where the flame really started.
So it didn't begin necessarily with one of the big teams, but with what you noted on how clubs dot the landscape of the city, which is it's not a typical German city, is it? Berlin, in how it's run, in how it feels. I mean, if you as a listener, or you before you moved, had this cliche in your mind, is Germany a well-organized, well-structured place? That's not quite true for Berlin, and it's not quite true for its football, right?
I would say also Berlin makes quite an excuse for the rest of Germany, because my argument is that the rest of Germany also isn't as organized as they would like to portray themselves. But Berlin is
probably true.
Berlin is definitely something else. It's a chaotic city.
Push it on Berlin.
It's a city of hubris, of ambition, and of spectacular failures, and that's what makes good stories after all. So it's good to find really particular stories that I think you wouldn't find anywhere else. So that's what captivated me.
Yeah. We're poor, but we're sexy, a former mayor said once, famously. And
yeah, of course. And Berlin teams are poor, some are sexy, some are less so, some are more to use like the how do you call it? The Kartoffel.
Kind of a plain, boring, like bread and butter.
Yeah. The bread and butter German
bread and butter
guy. Yeah. So it's full of this, and it's also one of the interesting things in some parts of football, like the very lowest divisions. You can find that kind of attrition with the new Berliners coming from outside, trying to do new things, and the old Berlin, like the very conservative Berlin soul.
24 out of 86 founding members of the German Football Association are from Berlin. A lot of ethnic teams that dot the city, lot of local neighborhood Kiez teams. None of them very successful. And no two of them constitute a derby. And for a European capital of the size of Berlin, before we dive into the individual teams, I'm just curious about, do you have any argument for why there is no one consistent top team that emerged, for why there's no consistent derby happening, for the constant ups and the constant downs among the Berlin football clubs? What gives?
Yeah. In a way, the title of the book is kind of provocatory, let's say. Of course, if you think of derby-less city, you think of maybe Naples, which has one big team, and then the rest is several divisions lower. And Berlin, you could argue Hertha Union is a derby. I argue it's not really a derby. Like, it's the identity of this derby is shaping, because it's been played not a lot of times, like 14, 15 times. So I argue that there's not so much of a shared history.
Yeah.
And then if you think, for example, the other, if you take like the three big teams in Berlin historically, if you take Hertha and Dynamo, they never played against each other in a competitive match,
right,
because they lived in two very different
two
systems.
separate nations. Yeah,
exactly. So there's the division, of course, that played its side in that, and then yes, Germany reunited. But what happened is the eternal instability of Berlin. As I said, it's a city of teams that dreamed very big and that fell very hard. So, for example, BFC Dynamo is a team that won 10 titles, 10 back-to-back titles in the GDR, and now it's languishing in the fourth division. And you've got a lot of stories like that, not only in East Berlin, also in West Berlin. If you think of Tasmania reaching the Bundesliga, making a record low for the Bundesliga, which still stands to this day, and now in the fifth division. So it's a story which is punctuated of such stories. And that's why it's difficult to find a derby. That's why Berlin has found it hard to have success. It's not a rich city, as we said. It's but poor, but sexy. The last title won by a Berlin team is in 1931. So it's the capital that has seen its last title.
There's no Bundesliga champion from the German capital.
Yeah, and also the founding teams of the German FA, a lot of them now are in the 9th, 10th division. I used to live literally over my balcony was over the pitch of the most ancient German team, BFC Germania 1888. And now they're in the 10th division. They still they exist to perpetuate their story. They had a wonderful match against Civil Service from London, because they had played such a match in 1905.
So it's kind of a historical reenactment there. Yeah.
It was wonderful. It was a historical match which really meant that football became an important sport with that match, because it was in front of a member of the royal family, and then it became kind of, okay, let's have football in the training of military people, and then it kick-started football as it is. But it's stories that are kind of hidden, and you have to go for them.
And when you mentioned the Hertha and Union and said the derby is still developing, that's very obviously true. In fact, I think it's changing fairly, or has changed fairly dramatically, or is moving toward a rivalry. It wasn't. There is plenty of evidence of friendship during the phase of the disintegration of the German Democratic Republic. As this famous friendly played at the Olympiastadion after the reunification, and it's Hertha and Union, and it's a bit of a love fest. So traditionally, that's not the heated derby rivalry that you'd look for either. And for all these rivalries and games to develop, it needs time. You can't just declare a match a derby.
It kind of felt a bit forced. The fact how it became a rivalry, but also you can see some seeds. Like, there are two teams whose identity has shifted a lot. One used to be the Berlin team, and now it's the second Berlin team in terms of
sporting success,
of results of sporting success. One used to be a small team which played against nobodies, and suddenly found itself playing against Real Madrid and the likes, and used to be more of a neighborhood team, more a Köpenick team, and now it's a city team, which is also maybe more popular than Hertha for the new immigrants. It's strange. It's a changing situation, and I can see that it changes the nature of a match, of a derby. But it feels kind of strange, and I think it still has to define itself in its real nature.
And maybe let's just take a first dive there. Your book starts with an Union game. It is the top flight club from Berlin right now. It receives a lot of international attention, sponsorship deals, transfers, the Champions League presence, and this kind of special story that Union brings. Where would you say in this Berlin mosaic does Union fit?
So it's of course a club that reflects a very particular part of Berlin. It's a very conservative part, so to say. It's former GDR. It's a community and has very strong bonds. I mean, going to Union for them, it's like Sunday lunch, I would say. It is a big family, but as all families, it's also kind of resistant to change, to new faces, also because the Alte Försterei, the legendary stadium that they renovated themselves, is also a small stadium for a team that suddenly became popular, very suddenly. And so now it's difficult to find a spot in the stadium to stand, because even members of the club have to go through a lottery to secure a spot at the stadium on the Sunday. And that, I would say, it reflects some dynamics of Berlin as a city. Berlin as a city which is often talked about because of its housing crisis, because it's a city which is attractive for many people, even though it's a bit run down, it's a bit chaotic, but it's also part of its charm, like Union, we could argue. And but as no place, as no services for all the inhabitants it has to face right now.
So you're saying what's true for housing is also true for seats and stands
in a way,
and it's
also true because it creates some tension between the old timers and the new faces. Union Berlin is a team which I found a lot of welcoming people in Union Berlin. I have to be honest, but I also know that there's been a lot of resistance and in front of new people coming and bandwagoning this whole team. I myself have to say that I got to Berlin and I thought that I would turn out to be a Unioner in the end. But then I understood. I talked with a guy in Berlin a couple months ago, and I said that football needs pain, and I cannot really take into the joy of Union right now without having experienced the pain. It's not my pain, but it's also a fascinating story. And I lived I went to the Olympiastadion for the 3 Champions League matches. It was a very particular time for Union. It was a time of soul searching in a way, because they were coming to terms with the fact, okay, now we are a team, we are a Champions League team. We have certain rules from Europe that we have to accept. We have people coming to the stadium just to see, because it's a big event in Berlin, because there's Champions League in Berlin. We have to play in a stadium which is not ours, because ours is too small. So it's a support which is very, very, very embedded in the stadium experience.
Yes.
And so it was like, so they had this...
it felt uprooted, didn't it? A little bit?
Yeah.
Even with the Olympiastadion, even with all the red lights on for Union, I don't know. I just looked at it from a distance, but
it was interesting. That they usually say we need the Alte Försterei, like the air to breathe. And the two funny things is that I tweeted the banner, a photo of this banner on Twitter, and a Hertha fan said, "Then choke yourself."
Yeah.
for some reason. And the other thing is that some of the organized supporter said, okay, but didn't we resort to the artificial lung of the Olympia Stadium a bit too soon to actually say we need that as the air that we breathe?
Yeah.
It was kind of, can we take our brand of supporting Union outside the Alte Försterei and can we still be ourselves?
Yeah.
And in the end, I would argue that they did. They showed a really impressive support in difficult times. They stayed 20 minutes after the game to support the team, even when they lost. And when they almost won against Real Madrid, it was explosions of joy and love for their team. It was a unique experience.
You did not become an Unioner.
No, I did not. I felt it was not my story because
not
I didn't have the painful part.
I think that's a very sensible reason. Yeah. How many folks who are not from the region that Union is from, the neighborhood, follow the club right now? Would you say it's beginning to be more spread out over the city?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I would say in West Berlin, Hertha still kind of has the hegemony, apart from maybe some gentrified neighborhoods like, for example, Kreuzberg, because there's a lot of people coming from Europe who came and when Union started to be this exciting thing.
Yeah.
And so
it was a cool club to go to. Yeah.
Yeah. It was cooler to go to Union than to Hertha, which was kind of the boring club between the two.
And that's the club you fell in for, huh?
We talked about the pain. I fell in love with Hertha in the exact moment when the header in the 92nd minute got in and the Olympia Stadium fell silent because they'd been relegated. That was the moment that planted its seeds. And then it was also meeting other people because
you were there for the relegation, for the moment of going.
Yeah, in the relegation match, it was the noisiest I've ever experienced in a stadium, and then suddenly the most silent.
Yeah,
like this, just like a switch of the light. It was a match of desperate hope and then of defeat, which just meant they were out. But in a way, it was something that glued Hertha together. Hertha was living through a very peculiar time, let's say. It was... let's say that the club was drunk beforehand in promises and ambition of becoming a big city club.
Big exactly city club was the ambition, and it was the official slogan. What, 10 years ago now, or maybe less?
Yeah, maybe less.
For a while, and that haunted them, right?
Yeah, definitely. And
I don't know what it was, Paris Saint-Germain, but for poor folks. Was the attempt, I feel like, to be in terms of their branding and in terms of the attempt to be something.
It kind of supporters kind of became a bit mild, a bit jaded, not so it kind of made a lot of negative things to the support. And I would argue that you had an episode about of course the Hertha president Kai Bernstein.
Yes,
that definitely played a part, but I would argue that the relegation was actually a big moment in Hertha history, and it meant that people it's a story that we've seen all over Germany. If you look at how many historical teams you find in the second division right now, and how they still draw record crowds, maybe even better crowds that they would draw in the Bundesliga. It's something that I think has to do with the 50+1, with the fact that
it does
in Germany you tend to be more a member of a club than a simple supporter or spectator. of a match.
I think those clubs, if you were to in 10 years, 10, 20 years from now, go into German history and see what kind of soccer stories are there that are emblematic for Germany at this point in time. I don't think it's not Bayern and Dortmund. It's the grittiness, the big names that have gone down one level, which seems to match part of the national mood in Germany right now as well, and are just now in the process of reinventing themselves for Germany, reinventing itself in the world and its place there, and for the clubs to reinvent their own identities.
The atmosphere that was there in the first year of the Zweite Bundesliga for Hertha was something
better than the first, right?
Yeah, it was definitely, you felt a lot of positiveness, of energy, of wanting to be there to support the club, and wanting to be able to say, I was there in the second division, I stood by my club. And that was something special. And also it was being in the second division also meant, for example, renewing the 50-year-old friendship with Karlsruhe.
Yes.
And that was also something that was very, it was a spectacular night. And then, of course, there was the untimely death of Kai Bernstein.
Yes.
And that also played in its part in gluing even further the Hertha Berlin fans, because it was, now we have a legacy to keep alive. We're on a mission. We had a president who tried to bring us back together after years of infighting, and he died suddenly, and we have to go on his path, basically. And that meant that season was definitely very, very special.
Yeah. That's also where you made international friends. It sounds like it's part of a team of international Hertha fans. The deeper you sunk into Hertha territory, did you keep up your traveling on other grounds as well?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, I was not there for every Hertha match, but it made a difference for me to be able to be there at matches with friends. Finally, because Union had become largely a solitary experience when I was able to go, which was for the Champions League. I would not have been probably able to go for a Bundesliga match. But Hertha, being able to be with friends and, shooting bull and drinking together, having a laugh, inside jokes and the likes is basically what makes football. I mean, so that's also one of the things that got me hooked on Hertha. Now I haven't seen Hertha live in 1 year, but I'm still following old news through our WhatsApp group, following matches when I can. Basically, also I think they're starting right now the season against Schalke. So it's, I keep having that tie to Berlin, reminding me of Berlin, but it didn't deter other ventures in Berlin football, because it was a journey of exploring for me. I was just too curious to go. I would basically shape my weekends and my family's weekends around what match I could go see.
Went to one of these clubs. Let's take one of the lesser known ones. Babelsberg, 03. How do you prepare yourself? I mean, there's two schools of thought. There's people who take in a lot beforehand, so they know everything when they come to the ground and have a sense of what they're walking into, or surprise yourself, soak in the atmosphere and see what you think. How do you approach these visits?
I always try to be a bit prepared, because I want to know a bit, and it helps me finding things to focus on, basically. But then also it's just when you're there, you just soak it in, and you kind of let let it do its thing. Babelsberg, you mentioned it.
Yeah, in the case of Babelsberg, it's not hard to pick up on what they're about once you arrive there, right?
Of course, but there's a very special story about Babelsberg, which was just incredible for me.
Yes. Maybe let's say briefly for listeners who don't know, what is the thing that Babelsberg seems to be about? First things.
So Babelsberg.
Let's talk about their politics for a little.
Yeah, Babelsberg is a team in Potsdam, so just outside Berlin. When the wall came down, the team was not doing so well. And what happened is that Potsdam at the time was the European capital of squatters. It was in the dying years of the GDR, and it came to be even more at the beginning of West Germany, because basically the houses that had been expropriated were being given back, but those judicial processes took a lot of time. So those houses were up there for the taking of squatters. Yeah. And basically the squatters just started to go to the stadium. And they started to fall in love with that club. And when the club went bust, they took the opportunity to just get into the boardroom, basically, and make their club their own, and shaping it to their ideals. So Babelsberg is a very left-wing club. It's very active in many. It does many things. They have a twinning with St. Pauli, of course. They have made tournaments for refugees. They are very active. They have a group of transgender supporters. So it's a kind of a small St. Pauli, if we want. I guess they wouldn't get offended with this definition.
They might quibble with that definition, but in terms of when you look at it from a glance, political orientation, there are
they also have
some friendly relationships.
A kindergarten in the stadium, for example. Yes. And the story I was talking to you about is basically. So when Como got promoted to Serie A 2 years ago, I got to see it in Berlin, but I was by myself. And at the time, nobody knew Como for its football. So I couldn't go to my neighbor and say, hey, Como is in Serie A, and he would have understood. So it felt kind of lonely. So what happens 2 days after I go to see Babelsberg, and the speakers of the stadium are blasting a song which I know very well, which is not a song in Italian. It's a song in my dialect.
Okay.
It's a song from a local singer-songwriter, which has become an anthem for the Como football team. Okay. This singer-songwriter, by the way, started his career in the 80s in a band, which still exists, and in which I do play today. So
and they played this at Babelsberg?
They played this at Babelsberg. I was basically in tears. I didn't know what was behind it. I gave a big hug to the DJ. I noticed some Como stickers lying around. I noticed in their fanzine they spoke of some Babelsberg fans traveling for the Como match. Then I published the book, and a guy gives me his number and said, call me if you want to know the rest of the story. Yes. And basically he's a old Como ultra who moved to Hamburg, became a St. Pauli fan, got to become friends with the Babelsberg fans. Como fans are still visiting him and going to see St. Pauli games a couple times a year. So he says, okay, we can go to Berlin. There will be Hertha playing against St. Pauli, and the following day we can go to Babelsberg. They become really good friends with the Babelsberg crowd, and they invite them back to Como. The Babelsberg guys go to Como, and incidentally, that proves to be the promotion match. So one of the guys promises the guy I phoned, I'm going to put this song on the stadium. I'm going to ask the DJ to put this song on the stadium speaker in the next match. And randomly, I was there. And I actually got to listen to the message of the DJ of the Babelsberg Stadium.
Saying, you got to send me the link to that song so we can play it, or at least a little bit of it.
Of course.
On the air for the episode as well.
So it's a really special story for me, and it's one of the reasons I do have a soft spot for Babelsberg.
Babelsberg, as is notable and well-researched, has not always been an Antifa club. And the club has invested quite a bit of research and energy, and its fans have, over the last, I would say, 10 years or so, to work with that part of Babelsberg's history as well. The name of the town, Babelsberg itself, was given by the Nazis, and the number of people in the fan community there have done some wonderful research on that part of its history as well. Dynamo is a fallen giant and the second Berlin team that I've had on the podcast so far with a little bit of a history. If you're not familiar with some of the dynamics in Berlin, one might ask, how alive is Dynamo these days? What do you observe? My hunch is that something new is moving. Fan culture has been on the up, but I might be entirely wrong. How did you perceive this historic GDR champion that's now playing in the fourth league when you visited them?
So if you want to see a crowd and you don't want to go to Hertha and Union, Dynamo is definitely the safest bet. They are in the fourth division, but they draw kind of 3,000 to 4,000 fans to their matches. They're very active. They're very noisy. It's also one of the place where you can feel a bit of threat, I would say, old school stadium atmosphere, and that also has to do with the political stance of most of those fans. Even though I have to say it's less clear cut.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely less clear cut than the reputation is. Yeah,
but still, I mean, I was there for a friendly, and some of their fans noticed that I was speaking Italian, and I was chanted Deutschland zu Deutschen,
Deutschland in Deutschen, Ausländer raus.
Yeah. So Germany to Germans and foreigners out.
Yeah.
Which was not
did that
lovely.
Happen to you on any other Berlin grounds?
No.
Okay, then we'll have to mention.
Definitely not.
There you go, Dynamo.
But then you see that they're chanting Bella Ciao on the stands, which is a partisan song.
It is.
And one of the main shops of Dynamo supporter merchandise is a Marxist shop.
Yes.
So it's a lot complicated, and I think it's also complicated how you treat the rise of the AfD and of the far right in Germany. Because I think Germans like to say, it's the GDR, it's just them, and I think it's more complicated than that. And it has some reasons, the rise in the GDR, and you can see that it's a part of Germany which is trying to find its identity and trying to struggle because they feel they've been they've been like a second division Germany.
Yes, and I mean the widespread feeling that we've taken, basically been taken. We've been played. There were hopes for life in democracy and capitalism that haven't been fulfilled, and these dynamics still shape German politics and soccer support as well.
Yeah, of course, and that is, I think, one of the most challenging topics I had to face while writing the book, because of course it's a complicated topic, and it's easy to just take the easy route and saying, it's like Eastern Europe, all the places that were communist now are right-wing or something like that. But it's actually a lot more complicated, and I think interesting also to see what the social forces are at stake there, what social dynamics shape that. And also because I think that it's a huge mistake to think that it's something which is limited to the former GDR. It's something that it's growing in the whole of Germany, and it's just too easy to hide behind that. No, it's just the GDR.
No, I think the last election made that clear in Germany as well.
Yeah. Of course, if you see the maps, you can see that there's definitely a difference, but it's not only that. It's a lot of forces.
No, there's plenty of areas in the West that have seen growth that is now similar to some areas in the East, and it doesn't pop up on maps where you only ask for the strongest, but you can see where the journey seems to be headed right now. Yeah. Well, if we're talking about more or teams, clubs that we explicitly associate politics with, tennis Borussia TeBe has to be added here as well. Quirky regional story, right? A club that has had homes in both the East and the West.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story, and I would say in some parts it's kind of like the Babelsberg story, because in this last the last TeBe was shaped by a similar experience, the club going bust and the supporters just taking the chance to just go and do something for the club and shape the club and reason about the club. But for example, it's something that came about from huge reflection. TeBe was a club which was born in the old Jewish district of Mitte, the center of Berlin.
Right.
And this meant that they usually, at the start of the 90s, they got chance of Juden by East German teams, East German neo-Nazi ultras.
Yes.
And this took them to a reflection and to dive into their identity and to say, okay, what do we want to be? Do we want to be the people who get offended because they are called Jewish by someone else, or do we want to rethink about our history, about the fact that we were born in the Jewish district? We actually had the first Jewish German national team player playing for us, and then getting dying in a concentration camp. We had a Jewish president who was a Holocaust survivor. So those are all bits of the history of TeBe which came together and shaped a more inclusive identity.
TeBe's story is also shaped by the move later on from Mitte out to the West. How would you locate the club today? Is it a regional club now? Where is its draw from?
It's definitely West Berlin, and I think it's a city club. It draws from people who have that kind of mentality. Of course, it's kind of a hipster club for people who want to find. I think that the most interesting thing about TeBe is that there's not a lot of hierarchy in the support. One of their supporters put it like this: we don't like to do what we're told. So even in the stands, we don't have like a couple chanting anthems telling us what to sing.
Yes.
We just want to be very relaxed in our experience, and that reflects a lot.
And there is one other club that comes to my mind that has a very similar supporting style. That's Wiener Sportclub in Vienna, third league team in Austria. And surprise, surprise, the two of them also have a close fan friendship. I think there's always been, among TeBe fans as well, a bit of a distance to the ultra movement as it emerged.
Yeah.
I think there's some snobbery in it, but there's also some very good impulses in it. Yeah,
you kind of feel that it's a different vibe, but it's nonetheless an interesting club, because you can see how they reflected on their history and how they shaped themselves in such a way. It's a lovely place, I would say, to go to see a match in Berlin. And it's also, I think, this kind of support, which is not maybe so big, but it's kind of very faithful and very present, is very. There are other teams which I think shape themselves on these. I would say Tasmania, and more recently Polar Penguin, that blueprint and made it their own with their own.
Polar penguin is an interesting phenomenon. A side note here: the current sporting director of my club in Austria, Sturm Graz, is a card-carrying member of Polar Penguin from his time at Union. I hear Micha Parensen. You have Tasmania on the cover as well.
Yeah, of course.
That's, I think, for casual observers, that's the wild card, or the name that people are least likely to have heard of. Why did they deserve the spot on the cover for you?
I would say a lot of people have heard of it because you've heard it in every video or news piece about the worst Bundesliga team ever.
Yes, that's
so. Yes. But I think
people have heard about the past. You are right. Yes.
So basically, that's a story I love because it has all the Berlin failures all rolled into one big failure. So the first failure is Hertha. You have to think West Berlin in the 60s, Cold War, difficult place. It's a place where people don't really want to go. Footballers don't want to go, so you have to pay them more than any other West German team to convince them. But there's a wage cap established by the football league. So what do clubs do? They, of course, offer, how to say, under the table payments.
Yes, tax-free payments, cash payments.
Yeah. Hertha has to do one up to all other clubs to convince players to go play for them, and it all comes to a funeral parlor with tickets hidden in or receipts, I don't really remember, hidden in the caskets because one of the members of the Hertha board had this funeral parlor. So basically the football federation, the football league finds out and kicks Hertha out. But there's a problem. It's Berlin, we're in the middle of the Cold War, and there has to be a West Berlin team in the Bundesliga for propaganda reasons, of course. TeBe has played the playoffs for promotion, but they didn't win. So they decide, no, we want to promote TeBe because the other teams who played in the playoffs could say, then we won the place. So one team is out. Another team is Spandau, the second team in the Berlin league in the second division, but they do understand it's a suicide mission, and they very sensibly say no.
Yeah.
And then there's Tasmania, third placed in the second division Berlin league, and they accept. They even get a big player, promising him part of what they would earn from tickets, like a percentage of tickets, and they make their debut at the Olympiastadion in front of a 80,000 crowd, and they do win their first match, and then they don't win anymore. They start losing match after match after match after match. They find themselves in January in front of 800 people. They have the longest streak without wins in the history of the German Bundesliga.
Yes.
So they get relegated, and in a matter of years they disappear because they go bankrupt because the financial effort to play the Bundesliga just strained the coffers too much.
Yes, no, there's the story where by the time the season is over, they run out of money and get at a bus in the morning like an amateur team, drive 500 kilometers to Schalke, lose 4-0, drive back home in the bus.
They managed to survive some years, but then they went bust. They were reformed. And they are now a neighbor team in Neukölln, and they're kind of proud of their history as the worst team in the Bundesliga. So when Schalke was almost, I think they were 1 or 2 matches from breaking this streak without victories. They played
Tasmania
against Hertha.
hoped that the title would remain theirs.
not only they went to the parking lot outside the Olympia Stadium with banners saying the record is Tasmania's. So
I don't even know this story.
I love Tasmania because they, like Polar Penguin, they're very ironic in their support of the club. So it's a really nice place to see a match without too much hassle, but also with a fair share of atmosphere. So it's really lovely, and I like how they're proud of this history, as negative as it might be.
Tasmania, by the way, named after a place in Australia. I think the club founders intended to live there at some point.
I think so. What I was told is that it was born out of the founding members talking to a sailor who had been to Tasmania and who had told them outrageous stories, and they were so fascinated by these stories they decided to go with Tasmania. I think the naval history of Germany gave a lot of names.
Okay, while we're
German
on that
clubs.
topic, it's worth mentioning Hertha Berlin is named after a ship, not after a war.
Exactly.
Mentioned at the beginning, the look at the map, what football is happening near me in this slightly chaotic city, and finding a lot of neighborhood and a lot of ethnic teams. We should mention one or two of them as well that are not on the cover of the book, but show up in there. Türkyiemspor is a Turkish club and probably the largest ethnic, most significant Turkish club there, as well as Maccabi, the Jewish club that made headlines on the field in recent years.
Yeah, Türkyiemspor is one of the 10 Turkish clubs of Berlin. Of course, the Turkish population in Berlin is very sizable and present, and they founded a lot of clubs all over Germany and, of course, all over Berlin. Türkyiemspor claims to be the biggest immigrant sport club in Europe, actually, counting the members. Now, the football team is not so important as it used to be. I would argue the women's team has gained a lot of prominence in the last few years, but they were the ethnic teams who nearly made it big. They were on the brink of promoting to the Zweite Bundesliga, so to the second division. It was really a question of like 5 goals or something like that, why they weren't promoted. And they were really a big thing in the 90s. They drew a lot of crowds, and it also meant that their presence started discussions about the neo-Nazi ultra supporters and their relation with football, about the presence of immigrant players in the league. So they had to be dispensated at the start because not all players were German citizens, and there was a limit on how many non-German citizens you could have. And I think that they're kind of a symbol of the Turkish presence in Berlin, and of what immigrant associations in Berlin can be for people who come to the city and do not have, networks, basically. So they need to find their community, and that's true for a lot of people. There's 10 Turkish teams, there's 2 Italian teams, 1 Bosnian team, 1 Serbian team, Kosovo teams, Croatian, British, South American, African.
Yeah,
you got
not Austrian yet?
I don't think so. Never saw it. It's possibly easier for Austrians to integrate it for the language, maybe. But it's definitely a huge part of Berlin football right now, and a very lively part of Berlin football.
We should mention the Maccabi Cup run as well.
Yeah. Right? So Maccabi has had a lot of Maccabi, of course, is a team of Jewish origin. It was they claim to be the heirs of a team which was founded before the Second World War and then
yes, they claim the legacy of the Bar Kokhba team as well.
Yes, exactly. Now they are a multi-confessional team anyway. They also have Muslim players playing for them, but they're part of the Maccabi Germany Association.
Which is a Jewish sports federation. Yeah,
umbrella. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And they had a very successful run in the last 2-3 years. They reached 2 Berlin Cup finals. So the Berlin Cup includes all the non-professional teams, basically from the 4th division up to the 11th division, and also one Freizeit team every year. And
so Freizeit team is basically after work.
Yes, exactly. They don't play in the league system,
right? But
they do have a cup, and if they win the cup, they qualify to the Berlin Cup. If they win the Berlin Cup, they can qualify to the German Cup. Yeah. So basically,
this is what
hypothetically you could see an after-work team getting to the Olympiastadion final of the DFB Pokal, but of course, it's no one's gone even as far as the final of the Berlin Cup. But it's one fascinating aspect, I think, of the Berlin football ecosystem. And basically, Maccabi made it. Yes, they're not a Freizeit team. Of course, they're playing in the 5th division. They managed to reach the final twice in a row. They won the first one, and then went on to play in the DFB Pokal, so in the Cup of Germany against Wolfsburg, which was kind of fascinating because, of course, Wolfsburg was the city, the motor city wanted by Hitler. So it kind of had this historical thing, and also the match was refereed by a Palestinian referee, which made things all the more interesting. Then the following season was kind of peculiar because, of course, there were the October the 7th attacks, and that changed a lot of the discourse. It seemed at first that Maccabi would actually withdraw its teams from all competitions. Instead, they didn't. They got on to playing, but there was a lot of media attention on their matches. There were a lot of interviews.
Which maybe kept them safer as well during that time.
So basically what they say is we've always had to have police presence at our matches, and it was not always the case that it was for Muslim people. So it was not along that fracture line of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that insecurity came. We've always had to live kind of escorted because there was the far-right ultras threatening us. So there were a lot of tensions, of course, because they represent one part of this conflict, and also because of how the German society reacted to this conflict. Germany has had a lot of pro-Israeli sentiment in its society, even in the left wing.
Tremendous feeling of solidarity there early on that I'm sure Maccabi felt as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Does Maccabi have an active fan culture now?
Not really. So basically, I think Maccabi Berlin doesn't really have a lot of fans, but for the finals, they could actually muster an impressive crowd.
Yeah.
But I guess that was because of their ties with the Maccabi Germany Association.
Yeah.
So I guess that a lot of Maccabi members, Maccabi fans from the whole of Germany just got together to support the team. So it was kind of impressive in both finals.
Right. In Türkyiemspor, would I find an organized fan scene there?
No, not now. They used to have it, and also because of their difficult relation with neo-Nazi ultras, they used to have strong ties with the anti-fascist scene in Berlin. So they are really used to draw good crowds.
Okay. Yeah.
But now, as I said, the men's team is, I think, in the 7th division right now. So, of course, you get the crowds you have in the 7th division.
You can expect there. Now, let me ask then. Berlin is a city that has a lot of people that live in it who are not German citizens, who are first-generation immigrants, who are second-generation immigrants. Where, if anywhere, do I find these folks in the standing terraces on a weekend? In other words, if I walk to Hertha or to Union and I stand there in the curve or I take a seating spot along the long side, would I see a cross-section of what Berlin is like? Ethnically, class-wise?
I would say,
do you think? How much does that diverse identity of the city get reflected in the terraces and in the fan cultures of the teams that are visible?
I would say yes. If you go to Union, if you go to Hertha, of course, you see diversity. I would argue that you see more diversity at Hertha because of the reasons that we discussed earlier. Because Union has kind of a more conservative approach, and it's kind of defensive of its old fan base of the guys that were there. So it has to do with that. And at times, unfortunately, it also became spilled into some isolated racist incidents. The club has done its fair share to stomp out racism off the field, even if at times some people argued it was too mild. But for example, there has been a racist incident lately in a friendly with insults to a black player of the other team, and the president Zingler just said, "If you're racist, you're an idiot." So it was there was no way to misunderstand that that position. I guess that Hertha, in a way, so Union is still reflective of Köpenick. Köpenick is still in the periphery. It's kind of getting gentrified bit by bit because of the airport, because of the Tesla factory being close to there.
Yes.
But Hertha is kind of more like Berlin, I would say. It's still the team that reflects the city of Berlin more, the urban club, I would say. So it also, I think, draws a lot more Turkish citizens
more
that
of a cross-section of
more cross-section.
Okay.
You had like the Kevin Prince Boateng as a huge symbol of Hertha. So is a Berliner of Ghanaian descent. So it's stories like that also shape, I feel, the identity of a club.
One last question I do have is what stadium? I mean, Olympiastadion, Alte Försterei. Okay, people can look that up, or people have seen that on TV. But what other stadiums below there should somebody absolutely visit if they're in Berlin for a day or two?
I would say the Babelsberg Stadium is something.
Karl Liebknecht Stadium, named after one of the leaders of the left wing of the Social Democratic Party in Germany.
Yeah, and it has this peculiarity. So it lies just outside the Babelsberg castle and park, which is this beautiful Prussian park with castle, and it's a UNESCO heritage site.
Yes.
And of course, you know that there are rules with UNESCO heritage sites. So basically, they have these floodlights which are retractable. Basically, they are foldable, so they're down most of the time, and then they can be taken up for matches. And it's really cool to see how a stadium and such a rousing ultra culture lives in a very lovely neighborhood, I would say high-end neighborhood. And it's a very uneasy relationship in a way, but it also tells you a story of what Potsdam and Babelsberg district has become, because the squatters are no longer there. They're probably in the stadium right now, and now the houses have been renovated. They've been sold to rich people. So it's very interesting. I would say it's a very peculiar place to see football, and the surroundings of the stadium are beautiful and interesting in this regard.
Yeah.
Then there's the Poststadion, which is probably the only stadium where Adolf Hitler got to see a football game, and apparently stormed out of the pitch in rage.
Yeah, I think he also saw one in Vienna, if I'm not mistaken, but it might be.
It's debated if he actually was at the match in Vienna, but it could be. He saw one or two matches. The one it's sure that he saw was the one in the Poststadion at the 1936 Olympics against Norway. He was assured that Germany would win, and otherwise it wouldn't be there, of course. And instead, Germany went to lose 2-0, and there's basically the diary of Goebbels. Goebbels said that he cried after the match because he had subjected the Führer to such a shame as Germany losing to Norway. But it's a beautiful stadium as well, so it's definitely worth a visit.
Yeah. Dynamo is an interesting stadium transition as well.
Basically the stadium is not so beautiful to see. It's kind of like if you want to see grass growing through cement and it's not
which you should stadium. Want to see, frankly.
It's poetic. It's pity that the stadium. So they used to play their European nights in the Friedrich Ludwig Jahn Sportpark, which is a symbolic stadium for the whole of Berlin, I would say. Yes. It lies just outside Mauer Park. So it was where the wall ran, actually. You could see it in the whole of the center of Berlin because of its floodlights. And it's been demolished last year, and it's kind of a shame because it's a lovely stadium. One nice touch was that supporters could go to the stadium and unscrew their own seat and take it to their home. I have two of those. I didn't unscrew them personally, and I'm still waiting to actually get my hands on them, but two friends separately decided that they would unscrew a seat for me, which was very, very lovely from them. But it's also a story of what we were saying, like the East German crowd saying, we were kind of screwed in the process, because it's a kind of a monument of East German football, and many people argue that it could be renovated, and instead they decided to renovate the Mommsenstadion, which is the stadium of Tennis Borussia. They made it viable for the third division when Tennis Borussia is in the fifth division. So they argued, you didn't do this to an East German stadium because you don't really like East Berlin. Kind of what was done to the Palace of the Republic, which was this monumental brutalist thing, which had this charm, and it was demolished on the excuse of asbestos being there, while other brutalist West Berlin places were preserved, even if they had asbestos. And speaking of asbestos, it's a very Berlin thing, because who could have envisaged that an East German stadium built in the 60s or 70s could have asbestos in it? So they started the demolition process. They found asbestos, and the demolition had to stop for that. But there was a problem with, where do we, where do we throw the asbestos away? And they didn't find a suitable place. So for a couple months, the asbestos was lying free in the air, covered just by a plastic sheet close to one of the most crowded parks in Berlin.
Lovely.
Sounds pure like Berlin.
Great idea, public health. They are in the Sportforum Hohenschönhausen now.
Yeah. That's their usual home.
Yeah.
They only used to play European matches there.
In the Jan Sportspark, which was an iconic ground. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically a lot of teams in Berlin played there at one point or another. Union played there, Hertha played there, Türkyiemspor played there. Even lower tier teams, when they get promoted to the 4th division and they need a viable stadium, they usually go there. So it's really a Berlin stadium.
When are you going to be back?
I don't know. I just was back in June for a presentation of the book.
Yes.
Sadly, I didn't get to see any match. I got to see a couple matches in December, which was when I came across Polar Penguin. I hope to be back soon this autumn. I hope to. My ideal trip to Berlin would be to get to see Hertha, Babelsberg, and something in the very low divisions.
Okay.
That would be my dream weekend.
Well,
I have to mention.
We'll extend that travel plan then. If there are people who are listening, who are thinking of ground hopping trips, Damiano has your schedule.
Yeah, definitely. So I had a period of 11 days in which my wife and my son were not in Berlin, and I was there, and it meant that I crammed 15 matches in 11 days, which was kind of brutal, but so lovely.
Well, an accomplished man in terms of ground hopping, but also in terms of writing. The book is available right now in Italian, but it's such a unique structure. Your experience and your angle as somebody who moves to Berlin and is not from the get-go invested in any of the club is so unique that I think it deserves a bit of a broader audience. And I love these kinds of city portraits. Thank you very much for the book.
Look out for an English language publisher. So,
well, let's say that openly as well. If there's somebody listening who might be interested. I'm
on the lookout for an English language publisher. So if someone knows somebody, it might be a cool idea. I think it would really be something, and I would think that there's an audience for that also in the English language.
So Hitch and all the other ones that might be listening, Damiano is open to being contacted. Thank you so much for the conversation. My takeaway is even in 10, 20 years, Berlin might not have a real derby yet, but it certainly has plenty of interesting history that changes and morphs at a quick rate as we live. And get yourself there if you haven't yet for a ground hopping trip. And if you don't now, at least you know the German capital from a site that you'd have a hard time finding, I think, in other English language media. Thank you very much, Damiano.
Thank you
for the conversation. Be well, and all the best to you in beautiful Como.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.